I'm your plenary moderator. My name is Femi Oke. You have me for the entire day. If you have a question and you're in the room, in the Preston, then you would see just in the center aisle a microphone. And when we open up for Q&A, I highly recommend, if you've got a burning question, that you go immediately to that microphone so we have time to hear your question and your feedback. If you are online, hashtag TTDC26. So I can formally welcome you to Transforming Transportation 2026. If you're watching online, if you're watching on World Bank Live, and if you're here in the room, we start our morning with a virtual keynote address from the Minister of Transport and Infrastructure of Turkey, Abdulkadir Uraloğlu. Over to you, Minister. Thank you.
Değerli Başkan,
Distinguished Chair, dear participants, I extend my warmest greetings from Ankara to Washington and wish you all a productive and successful conference. I am delighted to have the opportunity to participate in this valuable event, even if it is online. As you know, we are going through critical times due to the war in our region. I am closely following the evacuation of both Turkish and other foreign nationals from countries at risk. That's why I couldn't attend the meeting as planned. My entire team is there. I hope to be able to meet with you all in the same hall next time. Esteemed audience, transportation is undoubtedly one of the most critical issues in today's world. It is the beating heart that facilitates the flow of trade, connects economies, enables cross-cultural interaction, and allows for the spread of innovation. By sharing valuable ideas and approaches that will contribute to the transformation of transportation at this important event, you are also conducting discussions that will shape the future of transportation. While transportation has many dimensions, connectivity, especially that established through transportation corridors, is of strategic importance in today's global system. Recent global developments have taught us important lessons. Protecting, diversifying, and strengthening supply chains is no longer merely an economic choice, but also a crucial element of global stability and security. From this perspective, strong and reliable transport links not only facilitate trade, but also play a role in building trust between countries and contributing to global stability. Beyond this, connectivity is a key driver that invigorates regional and inter-regional economies. Strong transportation networks pave the way for the development of trade, increased investment, and deeper economic cooperation between countries. Distinguished participants, right at this point, we must ask ourselves, how can we diversify connectivity and strengthen secure transport routes? One answer to this question is to strengthen connectivity provided by land. In particular, the development of modern railway infrastructure enables the safe, fast, and sustainable transport of goods. Effective multimodal transport systems that combine railways, roads, and ports significantly increase the resilience and diversify of transport networks. Today, there are 44 landlocked countries in the world. For these countries, transport connectivity is not only a logistical issue, but also one of the fundamental conditions for economic development. Therefore, the development of a transport corridor network plays a vital role in the integration of these countries into the global economy. Strengthening land connectivity, especially in developing regions, will both contribute significantly to regional economies and make global supply chains more resilient. It is clear at this point that developing regionally focused transportation corridors into regional transportation corridors is no longer a preference but a necessity. Turkey, aware of this need, is acting with a vision to create a network of transportation corridors aimed at strengthening intercontinental connectivity. This vision is based on an Afro Eurasian perspective. We aim to strengthen north south connections by going beyond the traditional east west axis between Europe and Asia. In this context, we are taking significant steps to diversify the connections of East African coastal countries with Europe, particularly through the Middle East and Turkey. When this initiative is completed, a new and reliable transportation route will be created that strengthens trade flows and supports supply chains between Africa and Europe. Aware of its central position in continental connections, Turkey is planning its international transportation infrastructure accordingly. Our particular goal is to connect our country to transportation corridors quickly, seamlessly, and reliably thanks to a strong railway infrastructure. Currently, our Marmaray project provides a seamless railway connection between the European and Asian countries. In addition, we aim to establish a new railway infrastructure via the Yavuz Sultan Selim Bridge, our third bridge built across the Bosphorus Strait. This capacity will be significantly increased with the project we call the Istanbul Northern Railway Crossing. This project is expected to increase the annual cargo capacity to 30 million tons and the annual passenger capacity to 33 million people. This project, which has high engineering and environmental requirements, and it also represents a significant investment, is supported by the World Bank, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, the Asian Development Bank, the Islamic Development Bank, and the OPEC Fund for International Development, and the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. With a total financing support of 6.75 billion US dollars, this project will once again connect the Asian and European continents with an electric double track railway. I would like to take this opportunity to express my special thanks to the World Bank, which is providing the largest financial contribution to the project, and to the World Bank team for their constructive cooperation. We believe that this project will be a strategic infrastructure investment that will strengthen the continuity, safety, and speed of transportation routes. At the same time, this project will serve as an important example of how international public finance partnerships can produce strong and tangible results in the field of transportation. Distinguished audience, I believe that the discussions and deliberations you will hold here today will remind us again of an important fact. The transformation of transportation is possible through international cooperation, a shared vision, and strong partnerships. We are going through a period in which threatens to critical waterways around the world are increasing day by day. Therefore, a transformation that increases the role of land transport in interregional transportation is inevitable. By establishing stronger transport corridors, creating more resilient supply chains, and providing more inclusive connectivity, we can build a more sustainable, safer, and more prosperous global transport system together. Before concluding my remarks, I would like to recall on an important event that we organized in Turkey last year, which comprehensively addressed the issue of international connectivity. The Global Transport Connectivity Forum, which we hosted in 2025 with the contribution of the World Bank, has become a significant global dialogue platform on transport corridors and connectivity. To further advance this dialogue, I would like to take this opportunity to emphasize that we look forward to welcoming you to Turkey for the second Global Transport Connectivity Forum, which we plan to hold in 2027. With this message, I hope that the Transforming Transportation Conference will be a platform for fruitful discussions and successful outcomes, and I respectfully greet you all. Have a good day.
Thank you to the Minister and the Minister's team for getting us that virtual address. I can't think of a better way to start a plenary about resilient corridors than having the Minister for Infrastructure and Transport for Turkey give us a virtual address, because he was due to be here, standing here, but because of issues with travel at the moment, because travel corridors between parts of the Middle East and the rest of the world are limited and dangerous because of conflict, he couldn't be here. How generous of him to illustrate the importance of this conversation by sending us his virtual keynote. So plenary 4 is Resilient Corridors for Sustainable Connectivity. Let me introduce you to our panel and bring them on stage. We have the Secretary of State for Land Transport and Ministry of Transport of Angola. It is good to have you. Jorge Bengue Calumbo, please come up to stage. Welcome. Minister of the Ministry of Infrastructure and Public Works for the Democratic Republic of Congo, John Banza. Minister, welcome. Thank you. President of the French National Railway Company, SNCF, International and International Managing Director of SNSCF Group, Diego Diaz. Welcome. Good morning. Josetta Nerville Owento, Manager of the National Road Fund of Liberia. Welcome. Good morning. The Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Transport, Highways and Urban Development of Sri Lanka, Prasanna Kumara Gunasena. Good morning. And I am anticipating the Deputy Prime Minister of the Government and Minister of Transport of North Macedonia. Did he get through the DC traffic yet? No. No, not yet. Let's see how resilient he is. Ah, perfect. Fashionably late, but not too late. Deputy Prime Minister of the Government of Macedonia, Ministry of Transport, North Macedonia, Alexander Nikolowski. Hello. Nobody noticed, don't worry. It is good to see you. Thank you so much. What I wanted to do, first of all, was to ask our panel, just very briefly, what in your work, your job title, connects you to corridors, which means that you are a perfect panelist for this session. This is just a 1 minute, just making that connection as we're talking about connectivity. So Deputy Minister Gunasena, can you start, please?
Yes, good morning to everybody. To have a resilient corridors for a sustainable connectivity, we need to have integrated planning instead of fragmented planning from the relevant authorities, likewise Road Development Authority, Transport Commission, Transport Board, and everyone need to get together to have an integrated planning.
But you didn't tell us what connects you to corridors in your job in a sentence.
Yes, the main thing is to have integrated planning. Those authorities, they all have planning, but they are fragmented. With having fragmented planning, we don't get in resilient corridors for a sustainable connectivity.
All right, so your skill set is that integration part. All right, I appreciate you. Josita, it's good to have you. That connection between what you do and resilient corridors, please tell us.
Good morning, everyone. I would first like to say a happy International Women's Month, recognizing all of our powerful women. And thank you to the World Bank for such an amazing exchange of ideas. I am Josita Nuva-Wantu. I'm the manager of Liberia National Rural Fund. I'm also the vice president for West Africa Focal Group of Rural Funds Managers. What linked us is that as Rural Fund, we are responsible for the resilience of our various corridors, that is both national and subnational. We're also responsible for the planning, both proactive and reactive maintenance of the corridors, and as well as reducing the life cycle cost that is linked with the corridors. So that's how we are linked. Well, the most important thing is that we're responsible for securing and we're responsible for securing financing from both domestic and international partners. So we ring fence funding and then we apply it to the different corridors.
Very good. I can see that the Minister of Transport for Angola is making a note. What did you write down, Minister? How are the notes already? And let me just tell you, because we're talking about logistics, all of the microphones are on. So you start for a few minutes, naturally a few seconds, and then the microphone will come on. Because it's really nice for the audio team to know that you trust them and that the microphone will come on. So I always say at the end of the day, they have a headache from being tapped on the head 7 times. So if I can give you that gentle guidance, if I may.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So what did you write down, Minister, already?
So thank you, everybody. Just in few words, my job, I mean, coordination, planning, coordination, and supervising. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Minister Banza, from your perspective of your job and corridors, just in a sentence, what links you to resilient corridors so we understand where you're coming from?
Bien, c'est que nous relie au corridor.
Well, what links us to corridors is not only the idea of studying, planning, and executing work and building infrastructure to ensure that corridors, especially trans-border corridors, operate correctly and they really link the region.
Thank you. Diego.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Diego Diaz, I'm president of SNCF International. I guess here I am the operator in the room. The company I work for moves safely people and goods in France and in the world, and we operate and maintain as well the infrastructure.
Thank you. Deputy Prime Minister, in a sentence, what links you to resilient corridors so we understand where you're coming from?
Well, for us, that is one of the key issues in the country, as the geostrategic location is very unique. In Europe, there are 10 pan-European corridors, and we are lucky as a country that 2 of them are intersecting in our country, just east of our capital, which is unique case in Southeastern Europe. We are the only country where 2 pan-European corridors are intersecting. That is corridor south-north, that starts in Athens in Greece and ends in Helsinki in Finland. That's the longest pan-European corridor. And then is the corridor 8, which starts in Durrës in Albania, and then through Skopje, Sofia, Bulgaria, Burgas, ends in Odessa, Ukraine, which in this moment is very important and is considered as second most important security corridor for the NATO alliance, especially in these complicated times when there is unfortunately a war aggression in Ukraine.
Sure.
So these 2 pan-European corridors are intersecting just east of our capital.
Can I start with the operator rather than the politicians, Diego? Because there is this, and our premise is a bold one. With resilient corridors, you also get economic development and economic growth. Have you seen that? Is that true in your case?
I mean, if you think of the corridor as a system and not just a series of projects, then you open the door effectively for that. You have also to look at who's benefiting from the corridor, and how do you fund it? And I think also so everyone benefiting from the corridor should contribute to it. And I think also successful corridors are not only dedicated to one thing. For example, moving rare mineral from one place to the other. You should also look at how they help the local population. They help develop industry along the corridor, and that's only possible if you have a governance that oversees that, coordinations. And I can talk later on the aspect that of friction that can be taken away and that makes it more efficient. For example, it's not only the infrastructure, it's also the regulations, how you coordinate at border crossing. Often a well-functioning corridor will fail at the weakest point. So
there is a corridor called the Lobito corridor, which is really important for Angola. I'm sure so many people in this room know about it, but will you give us like a brief introduction? Because whenever we talk about resilient corridors, the Lobito corridor is the one that comes to mind every time. Why? And give us some more information about it so we understand how it operates and why it is held up as this is a good example.
Sim, é exemplo bom, e nós quando falamos.
When we refer to the Lobito corridor, at this point, we're talking about a work that's being done now and that started some time ago. In Angola, the Lobito corridor covers 1,500 kilometers to the border with Congo. During the colonial administration, the main infrastructure for that was railroads, the Bengue Railroad, as it was called. That railroad was initially designed to provide what was necessary to extract mineral ore from the Congo and from Zambia to send it outside Africa. Now we want a different thing. We want now at this point to look at the Lobito corridor and to look at the main infrastructure of the Lobito, which is still the Bengue Railroad, but as a development engine for the whole region. So with just public investment, we realized that we wouldn't be able to reach that goal. We would not be able to transform this Lobito corridor into a development corridor. So we wanted to create the conditions so that private investment would add its efforts to the public Angola investment, and the two together would change the Lobito corridor into a development corridor. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to change our rules or organizations and our manner of work. So we started by changing the law that codifies in public investment. That the old law imposed many barriers to this type of financing. Too much paperwork, many documents were necessary to create a company and to make business viable, and lots of difficulties that were imposed to foreign investors to invest in Angola. So we changed the law and we made it more easy. We simplified the procedures and we created a business climate that was favorable to foreign investment. And the main infrastructure of the Lobito, as I said, the Bengue Railroad, to that we added the Katumbela Airport and the Lobito Port, Maritime Port. And we created an international competition in order to attract competent companies that would work together with us, and we would then make that Lobito corridor into a development corridor. So we had companies that from Switzerland, Portuguese, and Belgium. These three companies created a consortium, and they won the competition for remodeling the Lobito corridor. But we also made sure that it wasn't just that we're going to use the Lobito corridor as just a transportation corridor for mineral ore. So we created a master plan, for the Lobito corridor. And at this point, concrete initiatives are being taken along all the extension of the corridor with the local communities, which are also changing a lot. For instance, yesterday we were talking about mangoes, but today I'll say something about avocados in the Lobito corridor. There's an area called Kahala. Kahala is a self-sustained region thanks to the production of avocados. We eat that avocado in Angola, but it has a short life. It becomes bad after a certain while. So the Lobito corridor is linked to 30% of our agricultural production. Most of the agricultural production is family farms, but 30% of that production is lost. It goes bad. It's not processed because we do not have industry to process the crops. We don't have, therefore, the conditions that would be necessary to really either store the products or export them. So the avocado then became an initiative that is part of the initiative to make Lobito more dynamic. So in order to undertake that project, two companies from the Netherlands, in partnership with the government of Angola, a company therefore wanted first to buy the avocados produced along the Lobito corridor, and they would ensure that they could store the avocado and then export them to the Netherlands. But it so happens that the avocados that were produced in that area are not up to the quality that European consumers want. So we started training the avocado producers And for instance, in October, we, for the first time, exported avocados from Lobito Corridor.
Always on the applause. That is always a good point to pause, because we have so many co-panelists who also want to tell their story. I don't know if we'll involve fruit or food, but it's really important that I also share the conversation, and we will take that takeaway away. We had mangoes yesterday, we have avocados today, and we will continue the theme of food and the resilient corridors as we go to the DRC.
Yeah.
Thank you. The Lobito corridor is also important for us. We have 9 countries surrounding the DRC, including our big neighbor, Angola. And we have a very long border. And with the 3rd largest country, Zambia, we have about 2,000 miles of kilometers, or kilometers of border. And so for this reason, the Lobito corridor is very important. And my colleague earlier was talking about the 2 corridors in Macedonia. In the DRC, we have 11 corridors that cross our country. And so to give you an idea of the scale and also the challenges that we have to be able to link the different countries to these corridors. In East Africa, we have 2 main ports. There's the Mombasa port in Kenya. And then the other major port is Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. Both of these ports are connected, and their destination is Congo. For example, if you take the port of Dar es Salaam, 70% of the merchandise from this port ends up in Congo. And so there is a need to be able to connect these with the central corridors, and to connect the central corridor with the Lobito corridor, and to connect this with the western part of Congo. What we've been doing within our country is to ensure that the internal corridors are operational. For example, we've got what we call the banana corridor, which transports a lot of the banana production. And this is not too far from Angola. And this takes bananas up to Sakanya. Sakanya is at the border with Zambia, and it's over 3,000 kilometers. So my colleague from Angola was talking about avocados, and we've been talking about minerals, but there's not just minerals. Congo is also a big producer. We have a lot of arable land, and so we have a lot of potential for agriculture production. So our small producers have to be linked to these internal corridors, and then the internal corridors, the domestic corridors, need to be able to be linked to all the other corridors. What we're doing, for example, with the World Bank is to connect the east to the west with the project that we're implementing. And what we want to do is to ensure that we don't see corridors as a standalone project, but rather we see them as just one element of the system, an integrated system, a system that is not just infrastructure or road transportation. It goes beyond just rail infrastructure. We have to envision this as being a corridor that is a whole vector for growth and development and prosperity. So the work that we're doing, it goes beyond just the corridors and our countries. We need to harmonize our legislation so that beyond our borders, we can coordinate transportation for the well-being of all of our populations.
Thank you. That makes so much sense. It's not just one, we're not going to silo the corridors. They all have to connect, obviously. Josita, you are writing an essay, and we would like you to share it with us. And I should say at this moment that Josita, I believe, is the youngest road fund manager on the entire continent of Africa.
Thank you.
So you may want to talk to her about career leadership tips later. But for now, let's get back to resilient corridors. I know particularly in roads, that is your speciality. But first of all, those thoughts that you've had from your co-panelists so far.
Yes, so I would just like to piggyback on the comment from the Minister of DRC Congo. And I feel that that's very important for the growth and development of Africa and most of the other regions. Considering the World Bank sit at the top, with policy development and synchronization and all of that to end global poverty, I'd like to start with the harmonization of legislation. Currently, Liberia is a first-generation road fund, and most of the other road funds in Africa are second, third, or fourth generation. The harmonizing of legislation across the continent makes it easier for us to relate, makes it easier for us to set performance indicator and work towards that. So for example, like with the road funds now, what we're doing is we're moving everyone up to at most second or third generation. And that's even more important for Liberia because we get to skip and just jump on path with the rest of the people. Now, when it comes to the global transportation, for us at the Road Fund, what we've been doing over the last couple of years, we've been strengthening the capacity of the institution. We've been restoring the confidence of the institution through periodic and regular audits, both financial, technical, and all of the procedures as they are located. And it's important for asset management because if you look over all of the investments, let's start with roads, right? You look at the investment that has been done in roads, continuously we hear the complaint that the funding that are generated are not sufficient. But then equally so, the corridors that are being built and developed, are they of quality and standard? Do we have a standardized legislation for the construction of roadworks? Do we have these road networks digitized where we're able to say, okay, from the data-driven point, the current asset of country X is at this value and will require X dollars for maintenance. So what we're seeing across road funds in Africa is that lack of digitization. So what we are doing in Liberia, we have started to unroll the paperless system. So we started off first, it's a very small step, but we started off with the integration of staff, doing the manual attendance. And now we're looking at developing what you call the payment management system. So there are a couple of systems. There's the payment management system, there's the road asset management system, and then there's the bridge management system. Now with these systems, they help us with predictability. They help us with regional planning as well as resilience, both from climate and other human disaster. As most of you may be aware, that Liberia has a history of conflict. So what did that do to our infrastructure? We had 14 years of civil war, but that had over 50 years of destruction in the country, and that wasn't just with infrastructure. So what we get to do is we focus on the strengthening of the policy, and the World Bank has played a very big role in that. And now we're moving on to the implementation of some of these policies. A typical example is the Road Fund. In 2016, that was a policy decision. In 2018, I led the team to operationalize the Road Fund. Today, we have gone from raising just about 18 million in the 2.5 years of my operation. We're raising around $33.6 million per annum. That's a small amount, but it just showed that the investment into one capacity of the staff that are leading the institution has tremendously increased the revenue that has been generated over the period. Also, we are ensuring quality assurance of this corridor. It makes no sense. Every year you spend $2-3 million or $1 billion on whatever corridor, important corridor. And then the lifespan of this corridor is sometimes truncated because of unrestricted axle load. West Africa is doing very well on that. We have the ECOWAS policy on axle restriction. Ghana is leading. Liberia also have a pilot project where we're doing weight bridges at a very critical area where we have all of the mining companies and the likes. But just to bring all of that back
Yeah, please go ahead.
just to bring all of that back home is with all of these different scenarios that are happening, this is where the youthful intervention comes in. Sorry, I'm going to throw this out to the crowd. You know, I'm just going to be a little more engaging. How many of you have been to Africa?
You know, Africa's not a country.
No. I know. That's very good because it seemed like a lot of people have some kind of link or interaction with Africa. How many of you have investment in Africa?
Does family count?
Now, this is where I'm driving at. We've all been to Africa. We love the food, the music, the cuisines, and all of that. We've gone there. Maybe some people had challenges traveling there, you know, airport baggage claim and loss and all of that. But the thing is, we go there for a vacation. We want to see, we want to enjoy, but are we investing in Africa? I have spoken to a couple of people and they're doing all these tremendous things. They are into AI, they're into different system development, digitization, but has this transition to Africa, different countries in Africa? Now, most of the minerals that are used for all of these end goods commodity, they originate from Africa. And if we are talking about job creation, not just for Africans, but globally, those are some of the things that we should be looking at, because if you move a value-added company or a facility to Africa, what you're going to do, you're going to get your products relatively cheap. You're going to have reasonable labor cost. And of course, you're going to put it up on the market. There was a time that a lot of folks ran to China. Do you know why they ran to China? Labor. Everything there was cheap. But this time around, you're not just going to run there because you have the raw organic materials, whether it's food, whether it's minerals. Specifically for Liberia, we have all of the minerals. That I will tell you. We have all of the minerals. We have gold, diamond, uranium, lithium, rare earth minerals, and all of that. Now, is this a continent that you like to do business with? We have 1.4 billion people in Africa. That's a market size.
So Josita, or should I say Madam Future President, a lot of people on the panel want to react immediately. So I'm going to say, Minister Calumbo, very briefly, because Diego, I know you picked up your microphone about 5 minutes ago. So I want you to use the microphone, but Minister Calumbo, very briefly.
Não, no tema de investimento, nós tivemos no corredor do Lobito.
Regarding investment in the Lobito corridor, there was fear from the investor, the foreign investor in Africa. They were concerned about security, they were concerned about legislation, and they were concerned about the investment risks. And we have been proving it wrong with the Lobito corridor. We have American, European entrepreneurs who, from the experience they have in the Lobito corridor, and this is sometimes the first time they're going to Africa, they end up with a completely different idea from the information they had before, and the perception they had regarding Angola and the region in Africa as a whole. Another piece of information, when we try to promote the private investment, especially from overseas, Angola has exempted 98 countries from visa. And some of the barriers we have in our continents are immigration. And Minister, we're talking about legislation reforms. This is beyond what is directly linked to business and legislation and things that are related to transportation. But we're talking about whatever will make investment easier. We have this on the Lobito corridor as measures that we have adopted that will attract investors and many others that are not aware.
Diego, what? Pick up the microphone. Please go ahead.
Well, first, the very eloquent way the minister described the importance of corridor systems going beyond the backbone. But coming back to the rail and also reflecting on what's said on the funding, resilience, and job creation and investment in Africa, I really want to underscore that rail corridor are a 50, 100 years endeavor. And they really need, regular maintenance. They're heavy on renewal, bridge and tracks, and this is good for resilience. This is good for, resisting to climate change. Often, when things break because they were not well maintained, but also modern railways. They're a very good source of jobs. You talk about digitalization, you talk about modern signaling system. Those are jobs, not only for, basic technicians, but also for engineers. Mm-hmm. So that makes it very attractive to also bring back, also sometime in Africa, you spoke the diaspora. We saw in Senegal, people are coming back. They're coming back and they're very proud of having modern infrastructure. And also you talk about investments. There is the money investments. And what we do in my company is also know-how transfer. Training people, sharing what we did. I think there is no better way of doing what people call ESG than, sharing what we did to help people even do it better. I mean, it's a source of inspiration. We have even innovation we brought back to France from what we did in Senegal, for example.
Mm-hmm. Deputy Prime Minister Nikolowski, Diego was just talking about modernizing railways. And I know that's something that is also top of mind for you, and how that improves the economic growth, how it helps making those railways more resilient and building them up.
Well, this is maybe business question number one in Europe in this moment, as southern ports of Europe are starting to grow. The biggest southern port in Europe is the port of Piraeus, next to Athens. And if you compare Port of Piraeus with the northern ports of Europe, like Antwerp or Rotterdam or Hamburg, then the difference is 21 to 22 days. So if a vessel that crosses through the Suez Channel docks into Piraeus, it's less 21 to 20 days compared with the northern port, because the vessel has to cross through the Mediterranean, then the Gibraltar, then Atlantic Ocean, the Channel, and to dock in the Northern European Sea. The problem why so far the southern ports of Europe were not that much used is that the supportive infrastructure, where of course number one is the railway, was not that developed, especially fast railway. And we are in the midst of Corridor 10, that is the most viable economic corridor for Europe, as I said. And what we did, we signed a strategic partnership agreement with Great Britain, which puts on display around £5 billion, that is around 6 billion euro, to develop this kind of strategic projects. And we are working together with United Kingdom to develop Corridor 10 fast railway that should operate with at least 200 kilometers per hour passenger, but much more important, 120 kilometers per hour for ferry, for cargo trains, which is the fastest you can get on a ferry. And that should completely shift the supply chain in Europe and the business in Europe, which will create huge benefits for us. It is expected only from transit, only the first year, as soon as the fast railway is constructed, that we'll have revenue of 120 million euro, and it will grow every year. Parallel with that is Corridor 8, where we are as well developing railway. We signed an agreement with our neighbor Bulgaria. And the idea of this corridor is more security. As I said, it's the second most important security corridor in Europe, and should be alternative supply for the eastern flank of NATO and as well for Ukraine. So developing these two corridors, we are mixing on one side the business, on the other side the security, which are in the core, if you want, in the world politics in the moment and what is happening. So with this showcase, we show how and what impact can have the railway corridors on the entire politics in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Minister Gunnar, thank you so much for your patience. One of the areas that we haven't spoken much about is climate change, natural disasters, the impact on disrupting corridors, disrupting us getting to where we need to get to. And you have experience of that in Sri Lanka. How do you make all your various corridors resilient against that nature and climate change?
Yes, actually in last year, we experienced with the cyclone Ditwa. I'll give some stat. In total capacity of the reservoirs, all the reservoirs in Sri Lanka is somewhere around 6 billion cubic meters. 6 billion cubic meters is the total capacity of all the reservoirs in Sri Lanka. But in that single day, within 24 hours, there was a rainfall which recorded 5.3 billion cubic meters. That amount of rainfall, you can't bear it up. So our railway network is somewhere around 1,475 route lengths is there. Out of that, 78% was inoperable immediately after the cyclone Ditwa. 78% inoperable immediately after the disaster. And the road network, if you take the road network, we have highways, that means expressways, A and B roads, and C and D. Our ministry is responsible for the maintaining of expressways as well as A and B roads. 542 sections, length somewhere around 1,500 kilometers, were totally out with landslide, washaways, and all those things.
Is this your nightmare?
Yes.
Like, did you sleep?
But we overcome.
Oof. Okay.
Right. That was the scenario.
Yeah.
We have 9 provinces. Central province is the one which has a hilly area, hill country area. In that area, 25% of road network is out within a single day. So what we did was, that's why I said integrated planning is the must for a resilient corridors. We established a DMUs, disaster management unit, from top to bottom, from presidential level to district level, as well as even up to the local authority levels. Our ministry, Transport, Highway and Urban Development, we have certain authorities which are responsible for the corridors, Road Development Authority, UDA, Urban Development Authority, Transport Board, Railway, and all those things. Even Triforces, Police, Electricity Board, Water Board, we get together, and even we had 2-3 meetings each and every day. We forecast, we integrate, we plan, we design, we made an action plan. We have a limited resources. We plan how to utilize these limited resources for a maximum benefit of the people within a short period of time. So once we lay out the plan, we can overcome that disaster. So up to now, we have a 71% of operable railway line after 2 months. 2 months back, 78% inoperable. Now it's 71% operable. But so many things to be done. In road network as well. So again, we need to have a specialized consultancy to establish the resilient corridors to withstand this type of disaster. So NBRI, National Building Research Institution, it's not under our ministry, but under the flagship of NBRI, we established a team comprising of engineers, consultants from the survey department, road development authority, and railway department. And site visits were conducted. Sites were identified and site visits were conducted, and survey planning was done, and BOQ was prepared. And now we are ready to establish. Now we are ready for the procurement procedures to start the construction of those road networks. Again, each and every procurement procedures will take much time. So normal procurement procedures, you will take 21 days for a procurement to be there, and there's also again an appeal stage that will take more than one month. So to have an immediate, so we got the cabinet approval for immediate procurement procedures, which will create within 1 week of time Now we are starting on that. So we hope within short period of time, we can manage this damaged road network. So to have a resilient corridors, I believe there should be 4 pillars. First is a climate disaster resilience. Then each road network should withstand this type of disasters. And the second thing is economic and redundancy resilience. And third one is, as she said, digital operational resilience. As example, in weekends, just before the public holidays days, we have a high demand of commuters. So we can't cope up with the normal bus fleet that we have. So once we digitize that, we can get an idea what type of demand is there, and so we can place extra buses for that particular route. The last one is social inclusive resilience. So with those 4 pillars, we believe that we can have a sustainable corridors with the resilient corridors.
Do you have all of that yet, or is that your goal?
Yes, it's a time-taking procedures. Finance is another problem. So we are a third world country, small island. Mainly depend on the foreign income. Mainly depend on the 4 pillars. Tourism. So it's affected due to this disaster. Normally we are having a peak in November 15th, from November 15th onward. So that has lost. But we recorded the highest number of tourists in the 2025. Even with that disaster. So we are planning to have it more in coming years. So currency is a problem. So that's how. So we need investment. Like in Africa, this is a small island. We need investment. So it's a beautiful island. So with this investment and with the cooperation of all these stakeholders and all those things, we believe that we can cope up with these disasters and to have a.
There's so much expertise on the stage, and I want you to have an opportunity to speak to the panelists. The microphone is there. I'm just going to check with my team. Do we have online comments? We have 2. All right, start. Thank you.
Thanks. We do have 2 good questions coming online, so good luck for the panelists to address those. The first one is about how we can make corridors to actually promote local jobs and not only move cargo, freight, and people. And the second one, if there was a mention that Angola has been facilitating the visas, if there's any other country in Africa that also is joining those kind of interventions to facilitate, like goes beyond like 1 or 2 countries in the continent.
That's more a travel question. So I'm not necessarily going to answer that one. I'm going to say use a search engine, because there are a couple. I think Rwanda, I think Ghana. I'm just interested because traveling around Africa is a pain. Even for Africans without African passports. So the number of countries now that are beginning to say, you can come to our country, no visa required, is growing. So I would say, if I may be so bold, search online for that question. And I'm going to stick with the corridors, which is, I love this question. Are there corridors that can create jobs, not just move freight? Minister Gunasena, is that possible?
Yes, that's possible. But we have to update with the with this type of digital updation is mandatory. In even Sri Lanka, in railway line we have there's a railway line. There's 2 types. One is the standard line, standard gauge and broader gauge. Standard gauge is the one that the distance between the 2 railway track is somewhere around 4 feet 8.5 inches. Beyond that, it's called broad gauge. Sri Lanka, we have broad gauge, but globally, most of the rail lines are standard gauge. So once if we want to standardize these things, so we have a limiting barriers. So when we are electrifying the line, if we are going for a purchasing for a new DMUs, so each and every time we have a limiting barrier. So we are planning to shift into the standard gauge, which have the globally.
So the standard gauge will create more jobs. How?
Yes. Investors will be there.
Okay. Sticking with railways, Diego, is it possible for corridors to create jobs
But I think we had a very good example in Angola, you know, because you have to think about the whole value chain. So you're, for example, talking about like storage, you know, we're talking logistic, where do you put the goods? So, you know, creating the stepping stones, and then you have the connection to from road to rail. You need to have like not necessarily dry ports, but good connection. Then you need to thought of where do the train stops. And when you think of the pure operation, you know, when you plan the railway, you know, if you do it too. If you don't plan for certain parts in double tracks, you don't plan for a train to stop, and if you don't manage the operation to allow certain train to go, so it requires then someone to govern the use of the corridor, and often they just done from a mine to a port, and then you try to piggy along on a single track, and that's you know a challenge. So sometimes thinking a little further. It would look oversized at the beginning, but then if you think 50 years and the growing of the economy, I think that would be the path to take.
Yes, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm coming from Serbia, and I would like to make a question for my neighbor from North Macedonia. Dobry den. Well, you mentioned two corridors passing through your country. The one going eastwards through Bulgaria, Ukraine, and so on, and the other one, which is coming through my country, going north of the Europe. You said that in this moment, due to the, of course, situation, that one going to Ukraine is most important. But I think that conflict will finish either way. And I suppose that the other corridor number 10 is more important for the Europe. I presume you know that in 2 weeks, we are going to open the railway between Belgrade and Budapest of 200 kilometers per hour. I suppose you will be invited there. So in that case, having that stretch of 400 kilometers, I think that this corridor is getting some advantage towards the other one. So what are your plans to improve the corridor number 10? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think both corridors are not conflicting, but go hand by hand. And as I said, corridor 8 is more security corridor, and corridor 10 is more business corridor. Regarding corridor 10, as I said, it is the most vital economic corridor for Europe, especially with the possibility of growth of the southern ports of Europe, the port of Piraeus near Athens. And for that, we need a fast railway, and it's an excellent job what Serbia and Hungary are doing in the moment with establishing a fast railway between Belgrade and Budapest. From Budapest to Vienna as well, there is huge work. I know Serbia is as well working from Belgrade to Niš, which is excellent thing to do. Athens, Thessaloniki already there is fast railway. So what we are missing in the moment is Niš, Skopje, Gevgelija, Thessaloniki, and that is something that we are working on. As I said, we have signed a strategic partnership agreement with the United Kingdom, and the first project here will be a €2 billion project that should construct fast railway from border with Serbia to border with Greece, so the entire line. The preparations are already happening, and the first excavators on site we will see around September, October this year, and we plan to finish it in the next 5 years, which means that the entire territory of my country will have fast railway none later than 2031, 2032. And of course, the connection to Skopje will go faster as it is close to the border. So it's a very, very ambitious program. It's a double track, same as it is between Belgrade and Budapest. So we are trying to continue what is already an excellent job. And what we are aiming for as well is to sign a 5-party agreement that will include the countries that are on the corridor. So Greece, my country, Serbia, Hungary, and Austria. And we are working hard with the other governments. And I think in the next month or month and a half, we will sign this 5-party agreement, which will be a strong signal to the investment community as well. We are working on a highway. We already have a highway connection that is complete, north-south, but we are now working on complete recovery of the highway and upgrade to the modern standards. So, short answer, Corridor 10 in this moment is the most vital economic corridor for this part of Europe. Thank you.
So, Deputy Prime Minister, I was really admiring the fact that you're sitting next to a railway expert. And as you're speaking about Corridor 10 and Corridor 9, Diego's like, yes, this is good stuff. You're speaking my language. I love it when transport professionals are sitting right next to each other. All right, we have time for one very brief question, which will have an even briefer answer. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, I have the similar question for Deputy Prime Minister of North Macedonia. We're very happy to hear the country is at the forefront of investing in regional connectivity. The impact, I believe, will extend beyond North Macedonia to the broad Balkan region and the big Europe region. My question was, could you elaborate a little bit on government's plan on policy enhancements, sector reform, particularly transport sector reform, and private sector mobilization? Thank you.
That is a giant question.
I'll be very short.
It's enormous.
Yeah.
I don't know if Deputy Prime Minister can answer that in 30 seconds. Is that possible?
It will be one shorter. So,
very good.
When you do this kind of big infrastructure project, what comes next is that you have companies that can operate. And together with World Bank, I want to say big thank you. We are starting a process of reform of the railway transport company. And I hope this will be a flagship project for the entire region to see how a company that dates from Yugoslav time can be completely transformed into a modern company that can be competition to the biggest European transport companies. So thank you for this. And as well regarding mobilizing of private capital, what we are planning to do around both corridors is to establish a free trade zones where investors can come, can establish their facilities, factories, and work together. And then we have the multimodular node where the both corridors are intersecting, that we work together with you and with other partners. And happy to see the Commissioner Tzitzikostas, greetings. And together with the European Union, we are working hard as well to develop this project. And Commissioner, thank you for the support.
Thank you. Well done. Not only did you answer the question, you also helped me transition for our closing remarks. So I really appreciate that. Our closing remarks are delivered by Apostolos Tzitzikostas, who is the European Commissioner for Sustainable Transport, Tourism at the European Commission. You're welcome. Please come to the stage. Thank you.
It's okay, it's okay. You can take it. Don't worry. Good morning to all dear resident ministers, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you for this invitation. It's a great honor for me to be here today with this distinguished panel and of course all of you here at the World Bank, and to participate to the annual conference on transforming transportation. And of course, we have to all agree that we meet today at a moment when transport has become profoundly geopolitical. Today, conflicts and geopolitical tensions are no longer shaping diplomacy alone. They are reshaping global supply chains, energy markets, and transport routes. The war in Ukraine has disrupted the Black Sea shipping and triggered a historic reconfiguration of the trade corridors. And today, the crisis in the Gulf, including the instability affecting the Strait of Hormuz, reminds us that a single maritime choke point can send shockwaves throughout the entire global economy. Nearly 20% of the world's oil supply transits through Hormuz. So any disruption immediately affects energy prices. We saw that during the last 5 days. Freight costs, supply chains are being affected, and that on multiple continents. More broadly, around 80% of global trade by volume travels by the sea, and over 1/3 of global trade by value moves by air. So when transport corridors are disrupted, inflation rises, industries slow down, and of course, jobs are put at risk. In a world increasingly marked by strategic competition, climate shocks, and economic fragmentation, transport resilience has become a matter of economic security. This is why today's discussion is so important and timely, because transport infrastructure is no longer only about moving goods and people. It is about power, about partnerships, and about prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, for developing economies, connectivity is decisive. According to the World Bank, a 10% improvement in transport connectivity can increase trade by 15%. And every 1 billion invested in transport infrastructure can create up to 20,000 jobs across construction, logistics, and manufacturing. So transport corridors connect farmers to markets, workers to jobs, and regions to global value chains. But connectivity must also be resilient and diversified, because the past decade has shown us just how fragile global networks can be. We have experienced a pandemic, supply chain shocks, cyber risks, climate disasters, and now multiple geopolitical conflicts. So the lesson is clear. The world needs more corridors, more routes, and more partnerships, not fewer. Within the European Union, we are implementing one of the most ambitious transport transformations in the world. Our Trans-European Transport Network connects 424 major European cities, 329 seaports, 38 major airports, and tens of thousands of kilometers of rail and road infrastructure. Altogether, it represents over 1.5 trillion in transport infrastructure all across the continent. But the Trans-European Transport Network is not only an infrastructure project, it is also a geopolitical connectivity project designed to strengthen economic cohesion and reduce strategic vulnerabilities. Today, we are extending the TEN-T corridors beyond EU borders, as you just heard, to the Western Balkans, to Eastern Partnership countries, and to our broader neighborhood. The Western Balkans, for example, host over 5,000 kilometers of TEN-T roads, almost 4,000 kilometers of railway lines, 3 seaports, 4 inland waterway ports, and 10 airports. And all of them are included within the TEN-T network. And today, 4 European transport corridors extend to Ukraine and Moldova, integrating them into the European transport network. Because this is not only about logistics, it is about economic integration, stability, and reconstruction. Ladies and gentlemen, the war in Ukraine provided a powerful example of why resilience matters. When Ukraine's Black Sea ports were blocked, we have acted immediately. Together with Ukraine, we created the EU-Ukraine Solidarity Lanes. These alternative corridors have since enabled over 260 billion euros in trade, keeping Ukraine's economy connected to global markets despite the wartime disruption. But the lesson was clear. Diversified corridors must exist before crises occur. That is why Europe is investing in strategic international connectivity today. Through our global gateway, we are mobilizing up to 300 billion euros globally by 2027. This includes major projects and transport corridors connecting Europe to Central Asia, Africa, and beyond. One example is a Trans-Caspian transport corridor, linking Europe to Asia through Central Asia, the Caspian Sea, and the South Caucasus. Traffic on this route, together with international financial institutions and the EU, we have mobilized over 2.5 billion euros in transport investments. Connectivity between Europe and Africa is another very big strategic priority for us. Together with the African Union, we are developing 12 strategic transport corridors to support the African Continental Free Trade Area, the largest free trade area in the world by number of participating countries. Projects include the Lobito Corridor, of course, and the Abidjan-Ouagadougou Corridor, both designed to connect landlocked regions to global markets. The EU has already invested close to 800 million euros, leveraging over 3.6 billion in financing, and expects to mobilize around 1.5 billion in transport investment in Africa by 2027. So as you understand, these corridors are not only infrastructure projects, they are development corridors that create jobs, facilitate trade, strengthen regional integration. Dear friends, if global trade has a backbone, it is maritime transport. Europe's ports today handle around 75% of the EU external trade, and the European maritime economy supports around 4.5 million jobs. But ports today are undergoing a profound transformation. They are becoming energy hubs, logistic hubs, and security hubs for the global economy. This is why the European Commission has recently launched two very important initiatives. The European Port Strategy that I presented last week, focusing on security, supply chain resilience, energy transition, and digitalization, and the EU Maritime Industrial Strategy, strengthening Europe's shipbuilding, offshore industries, and of course, maritime technology leadership. These strategies recognize that ports will play a central role in the global energy transition, from hydrogen to renewable fuels to offshore wind infrastructure. For many developing countries, modern ports are the gateway to global markets. And in some cases, it is the only possible way. So investing in sustainable port infrastructure, therefore, means investing in economic development, basically. At the same time, the transport sector must also transform to address the clean transition. Transport accounts for around 1/4 of global CO2 emissions from energy. Europe is responding to this ambitiously by accelerating the transition to clean fuels, electrification, and greater energy efficiency. So we are indeed investing heavily in sustainable aviation fuels, clean shipping, high-speed rail. I presented last month the action plan for the high-speed rail in Europe by 2040, connecting all major cities, and multimodal freight transport. Because sustainability, and I'm sure you will all agree with this, is not only about the climate. Sustainability, it's about our economies and our societies. It is also about resilience, competitiveness, and energy security. Finally, global transport challenges require global solutions. The European Union remains deeply committed to multilateral cooperation through the International Maritime Organization, the International Civil Aviation Organization, and of course, the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. And we also strongly support the United Nations Decade of Sustainable Transport, which begins this year. In a more fragmented world, multilateral cooperation is not a luxury. It is a necessity. So let me conclude, ladies and gentlemen, just with one thought. Throughout history, trade routes have shaped the balance of power, the prosperity of nations, and the connection between societies. Today's transport corridors will shape tomorrow's global economy. If we invest wisely in resilient corridors, sustainable infrastructure, and strong international partnerships, transport can become one of the most powerful engines of job creation and growth in the developing world. The European Union stands ready to work with partners across the world to build the next generation of global connectivity. Because when transport works, economies grow, societies connect, and opportunities expand. So I would like to thank you again for your invitation to be here with you for this very important meeting, and allow me to reassure you that the European Union is here with our global partners to make sure that we design and we implement the future of transport policies globally. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Tzitzikostas. We appreciate you. And thank you to the panel. There is so much more to talk about, but this is why we have a whole week of TT26. We appreciate you. Thank you. Please return to your seats. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. We continue with our program. Do not leave the room.
Programımıza devam ediyoruz. Lütfen salonu terk etmeyelim. Daha sabah oturumunda bir şeyler daha var. Teşekkürler Sayın Bakan Yardımcısı. Evet. Sabah programımızla devam ediyoruz. Sürdürülebilir ulaştırma seremonisiyle birlikte. Ulaştırma Geliştirme Politika Başkanı'nı şimdi çağırıyorum.
There we go. Hello, good morning. Welcome to the 2026 STA Sustainable Transport Award event. We'll let everybody get to their places. I'm Heather Thompson, and I am the CEO of ITDP, the Institute for Transportation and Development Policy. And it is my pleasure to be here with you this morning to celebrate cities in our STA, Sustainable Transport Award community, that are lighting the way and showing us how we can promote equitable, sustainable transport in cities around the world with both projects and investment. Thank you again to our partners at the World Bank and WRI, and to members of our Sustainable Transport Award Committee that are here today in the room. And some I know are online as well. Last year was a really big year for us as we celebrated 20 years of the Sustainable Transport Award. 20 years of cities over the years of our STA have shown the way for the world for well-funded, well-managed transport systems that can truly reduce emissions, improve air quality and health, and spur economic growth. This year, we are pleased to honor the award to the city of Salvador, Brazil, and to two honorable mentions, Kochi, India, and Santiago, Chile. Over the past 2 years, Salvador, Brazil, and CIMOB, which is its transport authority, have worked to expand and electrify its public transport. It has improved access with active mobility, boosting ridership in one of Brazil's most densely populated cities, and it has opened one of the first electric mobility charging stations in the country of Brazil. Salvador launched 7 kilometers of new bus rapid transit system, along with new e-buses and the first e-bus charging transit station. The BRT has already reduced commute times for people in the city by 30 minutes and has expanded connections to both the metro and other public transport systems in the city. Now we will show a short video clip so that you can see some of these improvements personally.
Nosso BRT acaba de receber a maior premiação internacional na área de mobilidade, concedida pelo ITDP, um reconhecimento que coloca a nossa cidade entre as referências mundiais em transporte público sustentável. Hoje temos um sistema de BRT moderno, com ônibus elétricos e um eletroterminal, uma rede cicloviária de mais de 300 quilômetros, soluções inovadoras, como as patinetes elétricas, e ações como as mulheres no volante, que abrem portas para maior representatividade feminina no setor. Tudo isso amplia opções de deslocamento e melhora a vida de quem vive e trabalha na nossa cidade. E vem muito mais por aí. Estamos ampliando o nosso compromisso com o futuro sustentável, com a chegada de mais 100 ônibus elétricos e um novo teleférico, que será inédito em Salvador e vai transformar o subúrbio da nossa cidade. A Salvador que estamos construindo é mais moderna, mais humana e mais sustentável. O prêmio STA de Transporte Sustentável, esse Oscar da mobilidade, reafirma que estamos no caminho certo e mostra que juntos podemos fazer muito mais. Muito obrigado a todos que fazem parte dessa conquista. Vamos seguir avançando cada vez mais.
Salvador está redefinindo o transporte sustentável no Brasil e sendo exemplo para a América Latina e para o mundo. Integramos transporte público de alta capacidade, mobilidade ativa e tecnologia limpa, tornando a cidade uma referência internacional em transporte de baixo impacto ambiental e inovação. O BRT inaugura uma nova era de mobilidade elétrica em Salvador, com uma frota de ônibus livres de emissão de gases do efeito estufa e o maior eletroterminal de recarga público do Brasil.
O sistema BRT é um modal de transporte público que possui como principais características conforto, segurança e agilidade. Desta forma, o cidadão vai passar menos tempo no trânsito da cidade e passará mais tempo com a sua família, tendo mais qualidade de vida.
Este projeto é um marco na nossa trajetória rumo à neutralidade de carbono até 2049, conectando infraestrutura resiliente, drenagem urbana e transporte limpo em um só projeto.
Nosso objetivo é que até em 2028, nossa frota de BRTs seja de 50% de veículos elétricos. Estamos preparando uma operação de crédito junto ao Banco Mundial, aproximadamente de 100 milhões de dólares, com o intuito de renovarmos a nossa frota e construirmos um novo eletroterminal em Salvador.
Tais ações levaram ao reconhecimento internacional de Salvador. sendo a única cidade da América Latina entre as 11 do mundo que reduziram em mais de 30% as suas emissões de gases do efeito estufa. Os impactos da expansão do BRT com ônibus elétricos é reforçada pela integração com a rede cicloviária da cidade, que deve alcançar a marca de 700 quilômetros até 2034, buscando promover a microacessibilidade ao transporte coletivo. O programa Mulheres ao Volante estimula e capacita mulheres em situação de vulnerabilidade na transição de carreira para se tornarem motoristas da nossa frota.
Há 1 ano e meio atrás, eu nem sonhava em estar nesse mundo rodoviário e, através do programa Mulheres no Volante, me capacitou. Eu não tinha experiência em carro grande, de porte grande, e hoje estou aqui há 5 meses. Porque se eu tivesse esse suporte de curso para capacitar, aí seria mais difícil. Nós temos a capacidade de ser e estar onde a gente quiser.
Além de mobilidade, foi implementada uma ação de acolhimento e humanização do transporte coletivo, que visa melhorar a experiência com o sistema que está em vigor desde o dia 1.
O Posso Ajudar tem como objetivo principal orientar os passageiros com dificuldades. Também fazemos pesquisas, interagindo com o público sempre para saber o que pode ser melhorado. Através da metodologia do nosso laboratório de mobilidade, a gente faz a escuta ativa da população. Através de oficinas de pesquisa, nós conseguimos ouvir quem consome a mobilidade da cidade. Com isso, a gente consegue colher demandas e solicitações dos usuários para a gente garantir um conforto, mais segurança e maior qualidade no serviço de atendimento com o nosso transporte.
O futuro já está se desenhando. Planejamento, cooperação e foco nas pessoas. Isso é o que move a nossa capital na construção de uma cidade mais humana. Salvador, a primeira e melhor capital do Brasil.
A truly inspiring video, and we did not tell him to call it the Oscar of mobility, but when I watched the video and heard that, I was like, wow, that's the biggest honor, and I think we're gonna take that forward. So maybe instead of calling it the STA in the future, we'll just call it the Oscar of mobility. Look out, Hollywood, here we come, right? But that really was such an inspiring video. And as we are here today, it highlights how much the improvements to the public transport systems in Salvador have created a cleaner community, but also more jobs and more opportunities just by the super difficult but simple thing of reducing commute times for people. So unfortunately, Mr. Pablo Souza, who is the Secretary of Mobility, cannot be with us this week from Salvador. They're very busy in the city, but he did send a video to thank us. So we'll play that video now.
O Transport Award 2026 é um marco histórico na história de Salvador. Nossa cidade, que está entre as 11 cidades do mundo e a única cidade da América Latina a reduzir mais de 30% os gases de efeito estufa. Este reconhecimento, ele é uma prova de que cidades do sul global podem fazer políticas públicas mais eficientes, sustentáveis e inclusivas. O BRT é o esforço de toda a equipe técnica da prefeitura, operadores e também de parceiros. E eu quero aqui agradecer ao ITDP, ao WRI, ao Banco Mundial, ao GIZ e também à C40, foram parceiros fundamentais para que nós possamos alcançar esses resultados. No corredor de BRT, nós reduzimos o tempo de deslocamento de 45 para 15 minutos, poupando o tempo da população. Os usuários do BRT avaliaram em 82% como satisfeitos e muito satisfeitos pelo nível do serviço oferecido. O BRT também contribuiu para a requalificação urbana em toda a parte de drenagem e de reurbanização de uma área importante da nossa cidade. E na mobilidade sustentável, nós temos muitas metas ambiciosas para frente. Alcançar mais de 700 quilômetros entre ciclovias, ciclofaixas e ciclorotas em nossa cidade. Estamos em uma nova etapa, capacitando mais de 100 novas mulheres motoristas que vão integrar também o BRT de Salvador e todo o sistema de transporte. Estamos entrando na fase final da negociação com o Banco Mundial para que Salvador possa ter 100 novos ônibus elétricos com ar-condicionado, 0 quilômetro, compondo a frota de ônibus de nossa cidade. Com isso, a gente vai chegar a 50% de toda a frota de BRT composta por ônibus elétricos. Fomos também contemplados pela iniciativa Mutirão C40, com 2 projetos de Salvador. Um projeto de caminhabilidade e outro projeto de eletromobilidade para poder avançarmos ainda mais com conquistas importantes na nossa cidade. Prêmios como o Sustainable Transport Award 2026 reforçam o nosso compromisso e nos trazem mais ânimo, mais disposição para a gente poder avançar em políticas públicas sustentáveis, com a colaboração de diversos parceiros que têm nos apoiado para que essas construções sejam realidades na nossa cidade. Agradecemos ao comitê do STA pela premiação, por este reconhecimento, e Salvador continuará trabalhando muito para uma mobilidade mais sustentável, cada vez mais inclusiva e com foco na mobilidade humana e nas pessoas que mais precisam.
Thank you, Pablo, for sharing with us. And Salvador obviously continues to have plans, and so look out for more success. So on behalf of the city of Salvador, I'd like to invite Thais Fonseca, who is a transport specialist at the World Bank, to the stage to accept the award, who has been working very closely with the city for some years and will do so in the future. So here you go.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. I'd like to, on behalf of the city of Salvador, I would like to thank ITDP and the STA committee for this recognition. As we are here today discussing about jobs and economic growth, Salvador reminds us as a simple but very powerful idea. Jobs creation is not enough if people cannot access them. That's why this BRT is so important. Connecting low-income people to jobs in a city as Salvador, where more than 1 million people live below poverty line, it's very important. This is about changing lives. That's why the World Bank is so proud to partner with Salvador in this effort. Together, we are going in this transition to electrify the fleet, to improve the accessibility, the road safety, and the resilience around the stations, and also building more charging infrastructure. And this project goes beyond. We are also creating new and better jobs with training program for women to become drivers of these electric buses. And finally, we are also introducing innovative business model and improve the bankability of the concessions contract. So we are able to mobilize private capital and improve the long-term sustainability of this system. So Salvador shows us that when a government invests in transport, they are investing people and opportunity. And I hope other cities and other governments can get inspired by them. Thank you.
Well, congratulations again to Salvador. And this will conclude our award ceremony. But for all of you that are working with cities or in cities that are inspiration to others, our nomination process for the 2027 award is open. You can find more information on staward.org. The nomination process is open until May, and we would love the opportunity to celebrate your cities. So thank you again to the World Bank, the WRI, and all of our STA committee partners that are present and work with us throughout the years to decide upon which city will be receiving the award. So thank you so much for your attention. And for those committee members that are here with us, we're going to step outside and take a photo in the atrium. Thank you, and congratulations again to Salvador, Brazil, for the 2026 STA Award.
Thank you, Heather. And now I announce that you can stand up, turn around, and go to coffee or tea. I will see you after the break. Thank you.